What, us desperately trying to figure out levels and
Are we going to talk? Are we going to talk about the Hulk, or are we going to talk about Evo?
coin flip.
All right, we're going to talk about Evo. All right, so 3,
2,
1. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Andrew.
And this is Agree to Disagree. And Ben was supposed to be phoning in today, but he had a surprise to him birthday party. Not his birthday, but someone else's.
Basically, he got pulled to something that was not his birthday party without realizing that about 15 minutes before it actually happened.
Yeah, so happy birthday. You get Ben, we don't.
To whoever. I don't know who you are, but you took away our third host. Jerks. How dare you have a birthday?
All right, so Evo, we are going to be talking about the evolution, what is it?
The evolution fighting game circuit.
Yes, colloquially, or by the fans, just called straight up Evo.
Yeah. Because no one actually wants to go through that, word, way too many words that is Evo.
So, up until this year, Evo was something that I had heard about, but had never followed.
Yeah.
I knew that it existed. I knew that it was the premier fighting game tournament in the U.S.
Yeah, very much so.
And
kind of world, actually.
Yeah, for now.
For the moment, yes.
And as soon as I knew we were going to be talking about it, I did some quick research. Basically, I went to the Wikipedia page and distilled a bunch of information.
And we've been kind of for reference. We didn't do an initial part of an episode to this because we didn't have the time, and also because there's just so many events if we were to actually dedicate a full weekend to watching Evo, I think we wouldn't get anything done production-wise.
Full disclosure, the tournament is running behind Andrew now.
We have the Wii U Smash Brothers finals running in the background.
The full name of that game, by the way, is Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U.
Mm-hmm. Well, Super Smash Brothers 4, because numbering puns.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, fair enough to Nintendo. That is actually kind of clever.
All right, so one of the things that makes Evo interesting to me immediately was that it's a tournament that's completely open. You don't have to be sponsored by someone to be in it. It's completely open enrollment, I guess.
Yeah, you can be a rando dude who just signs up, and if you're good enough, you can claw your way to the top.
Exactly.
So probably not likely.
It's highly unlikely, but
it's possible.
I mean, because from what I understand, people who are in fighting game tournaments, that's what their full-time job is. They spend, 10 hours a day training.
Yep.
They'll spend an entire day just trying to get down a combo set. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't get it done by the end of the day, they sit down the next day and do it again.
Yeah. And this is a common thing, I mean, amongst esports in general, is that not just are these people spending most of their time on that, they'll build they'll have houses specifically where it's an entire team living together, and they'll train with each other, train against each other, and that'll be the job, and they'll split rent between 7 people for a house or something. So I know that used to happen with the league community when it first started up, that you'd have an entire team of 5, which is a normal league team, living in a house, all playing different roles and getting different things in as far as training and stuff. And they do that all the time with esports too.
Man, that's got to be a lot of pizza.
It's got to be a lot of sweat.
Yeah. A lot of pizza sweats.
Just the worst smell known to mankind.
Just dude stench, dude sweats, in sweats.
Junk food sweats. Just disgusting shit.
And probably not every team, but there's always gonna be that one guy that's super, it's a super clean freak.
Yeah, who's you'll watch the stream of one of the other players, and there's just this one guy desperately sweeping in the background.
Man, okay, so that would be a kind of cool reality show.
They did that for a bit.
Okay,
they did that with League of Legends, I think back in 2009 or
that's
something.
Right. Sometimes I forget that League of Legends is a thing. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. Don't get mad at me. It's just not my cup of tea.
Look, as someone who used to play League, I totally understand how that would be the worst game ever for other people. I had to physically remove myself from it, and I also stopped having friends who played with me. So I think if my friend group didn't decide to stop playing League, I would still actively be playing League.
My favorite thing about League of Legends, as a side note, is like I'd be sitting down with people and they'd want to play Dota 2. And then immediately you get that League of Legends player just being like, no, that's not my game.
That debate is just the dumbest thing of all time. And I know, like, no, you know what? Screw it. I don't care. Audience, if you're still stuck in the debate between the League and Dota, just like take a very long, hard look at your life.
And which is the Blizzard one?
Yeah.
What's that one called?
Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm.
I occasionally sit down and play Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm, the thing that they got right is they made it accessible to casual players.
Oh, it's so fun to just sit down and play a casual game now and then.
But people who are super into Dota 2 and League, they're
no.
like,
no, man. Can that just be the esports episode? Can we just like rant about everything now?
You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, let's just talk about esports.
The esports episode. Let's go.
We're going to hang it on the framework of we're talking about
evolution.
Evo. But yeah, let's just talk about esports.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about background here. So you this was your first time sitting down to watch the Evolution fighting game.
Yeah, and I watched a bunch of the semifinals yesterday.
Yeah, semis are actually probably some of the more entertaining stuff. Top eights are usually crazy, but semis you get some pretty good stories.
And this morning at what some of us in the room would consider to be an ungodly hour of the morning
for a Sunday, I work at that time on the weekdays.
That's true. That's true. But at 7:45, 8 o'clock this morning, they did the finals
for Marvel
versus Capcom 3, and it was supposed to be like the Swan Song one, where it's like
it was the curtain call. They kept saying that.
Yeah, and it might get voted in next year to be one that gets like picked by the community.
Well, so that's the awesome. That's another awesome thing that Evo actually does. Is that's how some other games have gotten their chance. That's how Melee got its first chance actually to be part of the Evolution fighting game tournament. Was you will occasionally have fan votes to decide. Actually, it's fan votes based on donation, and whichever game raises the most money becomes a game in the circuit.
And I've got notes up the wazoo.
Okay, so we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
The history of Evo, and I actually have something interesting to say about that one.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that later. So I've been watching. So that's John's background. Was like this is your first Evo you've watched. You watched some of the semis. You watched some Marvel this morning. You've been kind of on off watching Smash and stuff. This is, I think, I've been watching since 2013.
Okay.
Mainly because that was when I got into watching competitive Marvel vs. Capcom. Because I played a crap load of Marvel vs. Capcom in college and in high school, and I love Ultimate, and it's like one of my favorite fighting games ever. And then when I found out there was a professional circuit, I ended up sitting down and watching a ton of that. And I've actually watched pretty much most every Marvel tournament for like 4 years now. The major ones, so like CEO, Evo, what was it? God, there were some other ones. But those are like my go-to kind of background noise. Like if I'm accomplishing something or if I'm playing another video game, like for Civilization, for Dark Souls, it makes for good background noise. And I'll watch that tournament. And there's some crazy hype nonsense that I love paying attention to. And it's actually why I like watching Marvel specifically. But yeah, I'll sit down, watch Melee. I've watched the Street Fighter finals more than a few times with some friends of mine. It's been good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna jump in and do some. Well, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna start off at the beginning.
Yeah, hit us with some history.
I've got some history, some notes that I thought was interesting. Anyway, first of all, it wasn't always called Evo. It was first. Let's start even before that. The tournament was started by Shuriken, Shuriken.com.
Shoryuken, yeah.
Yeah, Shoryuken.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's fine.
All right, Shuriken is a throwing star.
Yes.
So they
I bet you're not the only American human being to pronounce that word wrong since like 1986.
Yeah, shurikens, the things used in Ninja Gaiden, right?
Oh, so many rage comments.
Shoryuken, it's thrown by Sure, I'm Ken.
Yeah.
All right.
The funny thing is, it is actually thrown by characters named Ryu and Ken, both of which are part of the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it started off by Shoryuken.com. They wanted to just do a series of tournaments for they were like a hub for fighting games, and they wanted to start tournaments.
Right.
So back in 1996, they started Battle. Yeah.
Oh my God.
1996, they started Battle by the Bay.
Okay.
Which later became known as Evo. Like it was just a name change.
Right. Battle by the Bay. That sounds like. So was it a San Francisco thing or?
No, actually. Almost all of them pretty much all of these have been hosted in Las Vegas up until now.
Oh. Why was it called the Battle by the Bay?
It's named that because it It's the name. I can't remember, man.
Was it like the name of one of the hotels?
Yeah, it's like one of the hotels.
Was it like the Mandalay Bay Hotel?
Yes,
or like whatever?
Mandalay Bay.
Yeah, okay.
So the reason I was hung up for so long was I kept wanting to say Botany Bay, but that's the name of the ship that Khan was on.
Oh my god. John, what the hell, man?
Okay, big surprise. I know more about Star Trek than fighting games.
Yeah, fair. We don't all have the same wheelhouse.
All right, so the original 196 was Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Street Fighter Alpha 2. Like those are the two games that they
Right.
officially hosted there.
Yeah.
It became known as the Evolution Championship Series in 2002. So it went for like
What, 6 years?
That's 8 years.
I thought you said. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. No,
No, six.
that's 6
You
years.
said 96
yeah,
to 2002. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah, no, it's
so
fine.
6 years later,
So
it
6
became
years.
the Evolution Championship Series.
Sure.
That's actually the only note I have for 2002.
Yeah, fair enough. Whatever.
Yeah, some of these are just quick notes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to all be exciting.
Yeah. In 2004, there was a bit of a controversy because up until then, all of the fighting games had been played on arcade cabinets.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This led to a lot of problems because there was you'd have hardware issues with the arcade cabinets, so they had to have an on-site maintenance person to like fix broken buttons and stuff like that. It caused a lot of hiccups. Plus, on top of that, if you had players from like say Japan, they might have had a different button layout on their arcade machines in Japan.
I hadn't even thought about that.
So like coming over, suddenly it's like there's the cool factor of playing on arcade hardware. The problem is it's a lot of hardware to haul around. They're big, they're heavy, they're bulky,
super expensive
and
too.
The thing that allowed them to get away with that for so long was that the arcade hardware that Capcom made for most of the games they played, which is called SC2, was pretty interchangeable and pretty standardized. Okay. So they could just change out ROM boards, if I remember correctly, to switch
that sounds
over to whatever
accurate.
game they need.
That was a normal thing with arcade cabinets back in the day. Is if you were a company producing them, you'd make it en masse so you could replace shit easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the problem that they started running into is like when people wanted to play the newer style fighting games, you're dealing with much larger setups. Like especially like when you get into like the Soul Calibur series and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Where you get like those bench seats with the giant ass widescreen TV and all that. Yeah. It's like a huge installation.
Like even if because I'm trying to think of like we're recording out of the Washington area, east side of Puget Sound. So I'm trying to think of like just even GameWorks in Seattle and like just the requirements for even Soul Calibur over there. Like, those machines are huge. Second of all, probably expensive. And I would imagine maintenance on them is just the worst.
What do you do if someone breaks the TV?
Yeah, like or like even worse, like what do you do if someone just damages the stick beyond repair?
Yeah.
Like is the machine just dead? Does the tournament end there?
Well, thankfully, in most cases, control sticks for arcade machines are pretty standardized. You can order those.
But that could also be seen as like a disadvantage. It's
exactly.
Like if you're the guy who plays after the dude who broke the stick, you'd be pretty pissed to be like, what? So I'm just at a disadvantage because I don't know, Bill destroyed the machine. Like that's bullshit.
So in 2004, when they switched over to consoles, it solved two problems.
Yeah.
First of all, hardware problems, no problem. You just swap out the console, not a big deal.
Yeah, right.
The second problem, people complain about controls. Now it was bring your own controller.
Right.
People could practice with the same controller that they were going to use in the championship.
Which was a big deal.
Now there's not going to be any complaints about your joystick being bad. It's your joystick.
You brought the stick. That's your fault.
Yeah. So it took care of that. Another thing that they did in 2004 was they started enforcing anti-collusion rules. So the year previously,
are you telling me they didn't have a collusion policy for 6 years?
They didn't need one.
Oh. Okay.
What ended up happening was at the end of, I believe it was 2003 series, it got to the championship finalists for Soul Calibur were best friends. And so it wasn't collusion.
I already
like you
see
think.
problems.
It wasn't collusion like you think.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like people paying off each other to let someone else be the winner.
Right.
It was collusion in the sense that they got there like, oh, hey, let's just have fun. And so they kind of like they battled, but they didn't really take it seriously and just kind of like dinked around.
I imagine the audience would be pretty pissed.
And so that's not necessarily entertaining for the people watching. No. It's bad because at this point they start getting into sponsorships and stuff like that.
And it's not good to have your two champions kind of just like not playing for real.
So not only did they start collusion rules, they made it so Shoryuken told them that they would not be told other tournaments they would not be covering them unless they also applied the same anti-collusion rules.
Smart choice on that one there, guys.
So there we go.
And that's what created the fighting game circuit, really.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you had that like unified logic of everything. I mean, the road to Evo has been a term for a while now because of that. Like, this is why it's the finale.
Oh yeah, and that's why there's all sorts of other mini tournaments that lead up to Evo.
Yep.
Like, that's great.
I'm even thinking from Marvel off the top of my head. CEO, Winter Brawl, Battle in the West, I think, is one that's used for Marvel. Like, there's a bunch.
Oh yeah. So fast forward to 2006. 2006 was the first year that Capcom officially supported the tournament.
Oh, wow. It
Yeah.
took until 2006? It took a
Yes.
decade?
It took 1 decade.
Wow.
But at that point, that's when the tournament started growing to numbers of thousands of people.
Right.
Before then, it was merely hundreds.
Yeah.
I say as a person with a podcast that no one listens to.
Yeah, we got what our one listener was the one guy who complained that we need to get back on air.
Yeah. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Michael.
What's up, Gizmo? I wish you were also. He's a guy who is frequently in Brackets and Brews, the local Smash tournament.
Yeah, which actually I mean, we'll get into this later as far as like effects of Evo, but I would say that like local tournaments grew pretty dramatically due to this concept of like a circuit in the first place. But we'll talk about that later.
So also in 2006, they just randomly decided to do Mario Kart DS as one of the games in the ladder.
God, I love that conceptually.
I absolutely love that because it's a game that you can just play, and it's like everyone there had a DS and everyone there had Mario Kart, and it's like you know people who weren't actually in the tournament were also just doing like single kart play,
Yeah.
like because you could.
And I'll also say this, and I mean, there's something patently ridiculous about it looking back to be like, what, a fighting game tournament hosted a goddamn Mario Kart competition? But in their defense, and in something that I think we've forgotten because we're in the modern day and Wi-Fi and all that shit that comes with the information age, we forget just how crazy having like DS, like, what do you mean I could just play it without a cable? Like, that was incredible. And I imagine part of that was also the fact that they knew everybody was going to be playing it anyway, so screw it, why not just make it an event out of it?
So also think about this. This is I don't know if they were doing online streams yet at this point.
I don't think they were.
Because this is 2006. YouTube came out in 2005.
Yeah, I don't think streaming was a relevant thing
Like,
until...
there were ways to stream, but back then you were still like limited to like maybe real player.
I think you might have just... I think at that point they may have just been like downloads that would be sent out through like emails, so like download links that would be posted on like Shoryuken and stuff, and then probably just whoever the hell was there.
So you had stream it, because my original thought was like, how funny would it be to see all those people playing Mario Kart DS like blown up to a 1080p streaming resolution? I'm like, oh wait, they didn't have that back then. Back then YouTube was like like standard definition television resolution.
It was like 360p tops.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
how far we've come in 10
we
years.
have come so freaking far. I could just talk about that for a while, but that's not what this show's about.
No, it's about Evo.
2008, they introduced Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Oh God!
And their tourney allowed items and led to a relatively unknown player winning. They changed the rules for 2009, but it also, Brawl was not on the official lineup of tournaments for 2009, I believe. It was just sort of like the community tournaments.
Which I think this is probably why, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, like, I think you were saying it's probably part of the reason why Smash Brothers wasn't taken seriously for a while, is because they made one very bad mistake, and then Smash paid for it for, like, what? Because I don't think it was on the roster again until 2012. Or 2013, maybe even.
We'll get back to that.
But yeah, that's incredible that for like 5 years Smash just paid the price of like one simple error of a button click.
Yeah, exactly. So 2010 ends up becoming a huge landmark year, and I don't have a big note on it, but I want you to let this sink in for a second.
Sure.
2010 was the first time ever that G4 Tech TV had limited coverage of the event, with Adam Sessler commentating on the Super Street Fighter 4 finals.
Oh my God, I would watch the hell out of that.
Think about that, though. That was the very first time that this got TV coverage.
Yeah, wow.
And that was one of the first times that, like, at this point, people had been covering Evo as video game and tech journalists. People have been talking about it in the video game scene, especially in the tournament scene.
Right.
But this was the first time that if you had just been flipping through channels on a television, you might accidentally come across fucking Evo.
Which, that's actually kind of nuts to think about, just as an idea, to be like, I can just come across this fighting game tournament on average television.
And that's,
which we'll talk about afterwards, because now it's on ESPN, but different situation entirely.
So 1 year later, PlayStation Home users could stream the entire event from their PlayStation 3s.
Okay. Wow, yeah, there's a reason to own a PS3.
There was also, I mean, I especially know this because did you ever use PlayStation Home?
No.
PlayStation Home was great. It was Sony's Second Life, essentially.
Oh no.
So you could build an apartment and you could live in your apartment and you could put in like a Sony Bravia television or whatever. Mm-hmm. And
because
sit
of
down
course
your,
sponsored content, basically.
So you could watch it from your virtual apartment TV.
God, Second Life's still a thing?
Oh, yes, it is. In fact, they're working on a new version of it, but that's a story for another day.
Why? Anyway.
2011 was also a landmark year. They had 2 million unique Ustream viewers.
Wow.
Of the tournament.
That's a big deal.
They also had competitors from all 50 of the U.S. states.
Yep.
And as well as 44 44 other countries around the world.
International competitors.
Also that year, it was being covered by G4, GameSpot, Destructoid, all of them. They were all on site covering it live.
Right.
You also, for the first time ever, you had the producer for the Street Fighter series, Ono Yoshinori. He was there to talk about Street Fighter and patches to Street Fighter for balancing.
Yep.
And then you also had the producer of the Tekken series on site.
Oh, crap. Both of them were?
Yeah. What is it? Katsuhiro Harada.
Yeah, Harada's.
He was there talking about the Tekken series and also what's another one of the ones under their envelope? I can't remember.
What, under Namco? What, Soul Calibur?
Yeah, he was also, I think he was there to talk about Soul Calibur.
Oh, probably. Well. I think Soul Calibur 5 was released around that time.
Fast forward 2 years. That was the first year you started following it.
Yeah, it was.
That was the year that Super Smash Bros. Melee was voted in.
Oh, so it was the first year Melee showed up.
Melee was voted in for the 8th game slot by community donation. They raised $94,000.
Oh my God! Yeah,
for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation.
Yep.
As soon as it was acknowledged that was what they're going to use for their 8th slot, NOA, Nintendo of America, sent them a cease and desist letter.
Yes, they did.
Immediately.
And then
they got so much shit for that.
Yes, they did.
In fact, they sent the cease and desist letter before the streaming was supposed to take place.
Yep.
And they got so much flack that they rescinded it.
Yep. It was incredible. I remember actually being part of the fighting game community for that and just seeing all of the YouTube just videos being like, Nintendo, what the fuck are you doing? Because you're gonna deny breast cancer research 100,000, basically 100K because you guys feel like being dicks and not letting your game being streamed as a competitive fighting game? Fuck you. This game's from the Cube era. You guys are in the Wii U now. What do you care?
This is the problem with having a legal team that is extremely litigious and very protective of your IP.
Nintendo's law team is so agonizing.
They've gotten a lot better about it now.
Yeah. Well, they still hit streamers and YouTube people all the time with copyright infringement.
Yes, they do. Especially this is in an era where at this point Capcom has been involved with Evo for 7 years at this point.
Capcom's been funding them for 7 at this point.
And you also have involvement from Microsoft, and you have involvement from Namco.
And you have people like Seth, one of the producers of Street Fighter, actively doing commentating for all of the Street Fighter finals. Both producers of Tekken and Street Fighter are showing up on a regular basis.
And then 2013 rolls around, then Nintendo, some sort of angry neighbor rolls into just curmudgeonly shaking their cane get off my land.
Admittedly, they were yelled down by the community, rightfully so, backed the hell up, and then realized, oh, this is a revenue asset. Let's keep this up.
I have a feeling that Nintendo was so disconnected with the fan community that they had no idea this thing was going on.
Oh hell, I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
This was an action that was just raw by the legal team without consulting anyone, because it's just something doing a Nintendo thing and we didn't cover it, so we're gonna send a cease and desist.
I wouldn't doubt that for a split second.
Yeah, so back then Nintendo's legal team was a lot more like ZeniMax Media's legal team.
Well, and now
you're making a game called Scrolls? Cease and desist.
And now it's funny looking back to be that was even a conflict, because now they've been Melee's been an active part for now 4 years, every single year for the past 4 years. And then when Smash 4 came out, it was immediately accepted. I mean, we just saw the announcement earlier. It's been in competition for 3 years. And it's kind of funny because people genuinely thought that Smash 4 was going to be the end of Melee, but nope, Melee is still around. No one will ever let that game go. It's kind of intense that way.
So fast forward to last year, 2016.
Yep.
The Street Fighter 4 finals were broadcast on ESPN2.
Was it 4 last year or was it 5?
I in my notes I have down 4, but I could be wrong about that.
I vaguely remember it being 5.
But at the same time...
Yeah, regardless,
EVO is now being broadcast on ESPN2, plus the entire event was covered on their streaming platform.
Yep.
So now it's broken.
That's combined with the Twitch streams and the YouTube streams and like the other 7 different ways you can watch EVO.
So at this point, EVO has grown to a point where millions of people watch it around the world. There's participation from countries around the world.
Right.
And it still remains a fan community thing where anyone could be in it. You don't have to be sponsored by a company. You don't have to pay some sort of ridiculous amount of money to be in it. If you're a dude who likes to play fighting games, you can sign up to be in the tournament.
Right. And actually, there are more than a few people who have, I would imagine, I don't have exact examples, but I would imagine there are people who have gained their sponsorship simply by their ability to have the balls to walk into EVO without any sponsors, crush competition, not get to like, maybe like top 64 and then have a sponsor approach and be like, hey, we noticed you're not sponsored.
How would you like your life funded for the next year?
Yeah, here's money. You seem to be pretty good.
So all of this is really awesome, and like it leads us to now. But the last note I have here is that they announced, I think they announced this at last year's EVO, but coming next year, January 2018, will be the very first time that they have EVO Japan.
Oh shit.
So for the first time ever, they're going to have they're going to have their tournament in another country.
That's pretty nuts.
So there will be 2 EVOs then, I think.
Yeah.
If I understand this correctly.
I mean, the other thing is, and this has actually been a point of something I've thought about for a while, is that a lot of Japanese competitors, especially some of the better ones, end up getting screwed by the fact that they can't have the cash to come out to the U.S.
I mean,
which is infuriating. Like, it's easy for like us to be like, just drive to Vegas. Like, it's not. Right. It's not easy, but like if you have a car and a stick, you could within reason drive down to Vegas, sleep in a crappy motel, and then like go to the competition.
If you're Japanese.
The Japanese competitors can't do that.
And let's say you're Japanese and you also don't speak English.
Yeah, you can't do that, period. And I guess that's why that's really awesome for me to hear, especially since I know a lot of... Because it's kind of crazy. There are, in the instances where you've seen Japanese competitors in different games, the tech they use for how they play, it's completely different.
Oh, yeah.
It's hilariously different, like to a bizarre degree where like you can walk in with a different character and just either wreck an entire team or just get absolutely destroyed. I remember watching an episode of the Ultimate Adventures with Gutex and Mike Ross way back in the day, and it was Mike Ross talking about how when he went to Japan, he kept running into people who were telling him that Hugo was the worst character on the roster for USF4, and he's like, I'll prove you wrong, and buried like an entire squad of 10 people with Hugo, because they just didn't know what to do because no one plays Hugo over there, because maybe he's just like too bulky and like too bulky of a character. They're like, we don't know what to do with this guy, and he doesn't have the iframes that we need, so he's basically just doesn't do what we want him to do. And then someone like Mike Ross can just kick in the door and be like, no, I'll just kill you in 3 hits. It's fine. And
it'll take me a while to get those 3 hits in, but
yeah,
I'll do it.
You'll be super dead. And I remember seeing that when they would pull over Japanese players for Marvel vs. Capcom, because you know who's a character in Japan who is in American Marvel, Phoenix Wright.
Oh, yeah.
And he's actually really fucking scary if you can play him right. But a lot of American players either don't know what to do with him or they just like don't understand how the mechanics work. So rather than attempting to juggle that sort of stuff, they'll look into the things they understand and then just play a lot more of Akuma or Wolverine or etc. And then you'll have one random Japanese player come over with Phoenix Wright and bury like an entire competition. You're like, what happened? We didn't know this was a real character.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday when I was watching the semifinals. You'd have people who are playing Phoenix Wright in their roster, and they I don't know if they even necessarily knew how to use him, because it looked like the way that he was different from other characters is he would collect evidence throughout.
Yeah.
and then you can like lay down this move that is sort of like an ultra fucking powerful move, but people weren't taking advantage of it.
No, so he's the weird way, and I'm going to get into some very specific garbage here because I know way too much about Marvel.
Oh, go for it.
The way the specifics work with...
By the way, folks, we're transitioning from history now into talking about just raw Evo.
Generic. And that's going to be a lot of Marvel since I watch a lot of Marvel.
And that's fine because that's all I watched.
Yeah, so with Marvel vs. Capcom, specifically with Phoenix Wright, the way it works is his character requires you to use a move that has basically just leaves you in the open, but also gathers you evidence. When you get 3 pieces of good evidence, you can change the way the character works by activating turnabout mode, which is exactly what it sounds like from the Phoenix Wright games, where he goes like full, like the music kicks in and everything. It's fantastic. But it also makes all of his moves ultra powerful and gives them crazy good range and like armor breaking qualities, and it's intense. And like he becomes the strongest character in the game, bar none. The problem is getting him to that moment while also keeping him alive is pretty much impossible. So you have to play a shell game and just turtle for a while. So use a bunch of assists that provide you with like beam attacks and just like things to keep the opponent away from you while you gather evidence. The second you gather evidence, tag him out since he keeps that mode during assist mode, and then just play a normal game. And then when it gets down to your last character, you're going to have an uber powerful Phoenix Wright waiting in the wings, and then you just bury the team with him. But it's really hard to get to that point. You've got to play defensive, and you've got to know your assists and know the matchup to keep everybody off of you. But a lot of people have that kind of patience, or at least I've seen it a lot more with Japanese players, where they will have more patience for those abilities and be willing to hold back and like wait and then just go completely rush down afterwards. But he's not a thing in the American meta. And that's why I think hearing there's going to be an Evo Japan makes me a lot more excited, especially if winning that tournament gets you like, I don't know, free airfare to Evo America as well. Because that'd be really sweet, because then you could actually get that opportunity for Japanese players where like you and I can pick up our shit tomorrow and drive down to Vegas. Well, they can pick up their shit, take a train down to Tokyo or something, or wherever Evo Japan is, win, and then get a flight over to other Evo as well, which would be awesome.
I mean, hell, in the case of Japan, it would cost you and me a lot more money to go to Vegas than it would cost a person in North Japan to go down to Tokyo.
Exactly.
Like, they could just hop on the fucking Shinkansen and go all the way down there
because they have relevant and decent public transportation.
Yeah.
But seriously, because that is one thing that I think you bring up about American Evo that's awesome, where it's like no sponsorship required, no nothing. Sign your name on the dotted line and go kick some ass. And Japanese players don't get that because it's like that's a really goddamn expensive ticket. Mm-hmm. And so that's why when you get people over here from Japan, they're typically the scariest people on the face of the planet when it comes to their fighting game, because they know that game. And dude, if I'm spending a K on a ticket, I better know I'm gonna win.
If you're dropping down a $1,000 plus airfare, that's not including like hotel stay and all that for the whole weekend.
Nope.
And also, like, you're gonna spend that much money for a 3-day appointment?
No. No. You better win.
You better win, or at least you better turn the thing into like a whole like US vacation.
Yeah, you better either top 8 or turn this into a US vacation. Like one or the other, which like fair enough, but I guess that's cool to hear, because then that gives the opportunity for a lot more crazy shit that, especially I think because metas get stale. And especially with stuff like Marvel, metas can get stale really fast. And getting a nice Japanese influx will probably actually change things really dramatically in the FGC.
I'm curious to see what happens when they do have an Evo Japan. How many U.S. players or Canadian players are going to be flying over to Japan? Because we have a group that is already sponsored, and how many of them will be fronting for the ticket for them to go over there?
That's a good question, actually.
And then when they get there, how many of them are going to be completely blown away by potentially a fan base that plays the game completely differently?
Yeah, actually, that'd be really interesting to observe. Because, I mean, if it comes out in January, like, hell, I'll still watch those games.
As long as they're streaming on Twitch, I will watch the crap out of it. It doesn't even need to be in English.
Like, no, I mean, because that's the one thing about fighting games is you can watch it
it's like dancing.
You can watch it without commentary. Don't get me wrong. Commentary takes good games to amazing levels. And I mean, you saw that this morning. Like, IFC Yipes is probably my favorite commentator of all time, because that dude will make anything beyond hype.
I want to talk about that for a minute. Actually, when I started watching Evo yesterday, I was blown away by how professional and high quality the production values were.
Yeah, you were talking about this when we were watching the intro for Smash just like an hour ago.
Like they do overlays for the video game playing, so you know which player is which, but they tend to do it in a way so it's unobtrusive and actually in some cases blends in with the UI for the game.
Yep. They're really professionally made. It's specifically built probably for that reason, where you as an audience member don't really have to go out of your way to find the info. It's just at hand in the exact spot you would think it is.
And then the commentators, they have professional quality commentators. It's not like you and me just dicking around with microphones.
No. I mean, we do good commentary, but we're not about to sit down and tell you like what the shit is happening with the option select on a Street Fighter character. Like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Are you kidding me?
And then
I know how to play that game.
Not only that, but they have commentators that know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They can turn anything into a joke.
Yep.
And it's just entertaining on its own level.
So that's actually one thing that I do really love about Evo is the production values for the past, like, God knows how many years. Because I've been watching for 4 years now, and the quality has been that level for the entire time I've been watching Evo. Like, it has not dropped once. And at least with Marvel, that's because they've consistently had the same guy. Yipes has been the voice and face of Marvel vs. Capcom probably since Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He was making jokes about it today because it was the curtain call for MVC, so they were doing like a farewell thing with him and I think his wife, who is Persia, the woman who was sitting next to him.
Okay,
and,
okay? So there was a moment during the commentating when he was talking about how he was glistening with sweat, and then she reaches over and wipes off his brow.
Yeah,
and there was a moment I was like, wow, they're really comfortable together.
Nah, I think they're married, or at least like getting into that region. Well, so anyway, Yipes has been doing commentary for the entire time I've been watching. And he's actually one of my favorite commentators of all time because the dude is exactly that.
Yeah.
He's able to take anything into a joke. He's also providing really good commentary. It takes a bit to understand the lingo, and that's actually... I'll show you something later about that, but like, if you've ever seen the Marvel Baby video, but like Mahvel, like... I'm
just shaking my head.
Okay, whatever. I'll show it to you later. But the bullshit levels of like lingo you need to understand that video, that I would actually need to pause. It's a 2-minute video. It will take 15 minutes to explain what the hell is going on.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. After we're done recording, you're gonna show me it, and you're not gonna say a word the entire time.
And you're gonna attempt to understand it.
And then we can watch it again, and you can do me a point by point breakdown. Okay.
But there is a lot of like impenetrable language with that. But the awesome thing about like having someone like Yipes on commentary, or in the case of when they were doing USF 4, having Seth on commentary, or like having they did this with Smash as well. Having people who play the game on commentary helps out and actually provides a lot more help for people who don't play the game. Like, I can sit down and watch a Smash stream and generally know what the hell is going on from the fact that the commentators are like breaking down everything that's happening point by point. It helps out. Like, with a game I understand, I don't necessarily need them there, but for something I'm just watching, it's pretty awesome to have. Also, most of the time they're, at least with like Yipes and those guys, they're either producers or they're former professional players, which also just helps provide even more of that. I know for Killer Instinct, they got Maximilian Dude, the YouTuber, to do commentary for it when it was in Evo. And that was one of the things that also immediately blew me away when I was watching yesterday was Yipes was talking about how, you know, he was going to go play in a tournament later. Yeah. Or like he was going to be playing later. It's like, oh, that's right. Once again, since this is all open to the community, yep, you're not necessarily just a commentator who's being paid for it. You're also part of the community, and you probably want to fight in that tournament as well. Yeah, he made it to top 32 actually. Well, damn. He was because he's like an old school player, and he played against Justin Wong, which I don't know if you saw this, the commentators were freaking out about. Like that was a part of my notes that I didn't mention earlier. Justin Wong is a guy who's been in the tournaments since 2001. Yep. And he has won 9 titles. The most famous moment in I want to say in FGC, in Evo history was it Evo Moment 21? It was, I think, Daigo versus Justin Wong. And I'll show it to you later, but there's this really famous moment with Street Fighter Third Strike that actually is one of those moments that propelled Evo into like, holy shit, this is real. And it's this ludicrous ass from Street Fighter 3. I don't know if you know it. So you can parry in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which is like, if you hit forward, it's essentially the guard parry from Soul Calibur. You can just stop the attack. You don't stop the attack, but you just don't take any hits from it. Right. He managed to parry Chun-Li's entire Ultra. And not just parry Chun-Li's entire Ultra, he parried the entire Ultra, parried the follow-up attacks, and then answered killing her.
Yeah.
And the audience went berserk, and it's amazing.
For people who might not be able to visualize this, imagine a flurry of kicks and punches and shit coming at your face, and just kind of like moving through it like you're fucking Neo.
It's insane, and I'll show you the clip later, but it's glorious. Where like Daigo managed to just do it and make it through, and then just answer with a flaming Shoryuken right to the chin that took him into Grand Champion, and it was just like, what is going on?
I could picture microphones like peaking all over the place.
It's known as the Daigo parry. It's one of the most intense things you can see on stream anywhere. It's ridiculous. But and I mean, like that's one of the best things about Evo for me as an audience member is it produces those just ludicrous ass stories of just like, how did any of that happen? I mean, I was texting you this morning when we were watching Marvel of just like, I am actually just yelling at my phone right now. This is like, what is going on?
No, okay, so like once again, as a person who's never really watched this, like I'm watching the finals, and I immediately found a guy from Canada who I was like rooting for the entire time and like invested in how he was doing, and he made it. He made it
to top 3.
Yeah, he made it into the top 3, losing to Chris G, which we'll get back to. But he's a guy whose name was like what was it? PC Marvel God.
Yeah, and it used to be something else because Yipes refused to call him that. He's like, dude, come on, I'm not calling you that name.
Yeah, so it's like PC Marvel God, and he's just this great player from Canada. And what he had done is he had
was his the Hagar team?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that team was scary as shit.
Like he played Hagar for a while, but he also did like a mirror team where it wasn't Hagar, it was
oh man, I can't remember.
Okay, so
regardless, he was the guy. He was the guy who morphed his team to the meta, right? Like he was okay. I see what you're playing. I'm gonna play my counter team to that.
Yeah,
was that him?
He was a guy who his whole thing is that he doesn't have roster 3 characters he plays. He had a
roster of like 9.
He is proficient in multiple characters, and he can adjust to play whatever you are going to be playing.
And that was crazy because that was brand new in Marvel. Like it's been around for 5 years, and in all the time I've been watching Evo, everybody walks in with a set team. Yeah, there are some people who memorize a few different characters just to have like a side guy or a counter pick. That was the first time I'd seen this guy just be like, no, I mold my team to what you're playing.
Yeah,
and that was nuts. And he did so well.
He did so fucking good. In fact,
it was really good. His Hagar was incredible. He kept managing to basically lock down the opponent with Hagar and then pull off a double lariat, which just locks you down in the corner. And if you're not blocking high, then he calls in an assist, which hits you low, and then unblockable setup, and then I just combo you into oblivion. Like, it was incredible.
Side note about just like the way Marvel vs. Capcom works that I love so much is that you can call in your assist, but the downside to calling in an assist is that people can attack your assist when it's not just like a fancy thing going on, like a foreground or background element where it's like, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to hurt you. It's like, I'm going out here and you can still potentially dodge what they're doing. But also, not only that, but the person who jumps out to assist you, they can receive damage. So you could potentially knock out a person's character just from them doing assists.
I mean, we saw that more than a few times in the tournament today. And I mean, you see that in every tournament where someone will just make a really bad assist call and then pay for it by losing the match. Because it's like, okay, not only are you out 1 character, you're out 2 because you made 1 bad call, and now you got happy birthday, which is the term for it. And then you're just dead. Like, you're out 2 characters in your team, and even with X Factor, you're probably not coming back from that. There were some ridiculous moments. Was he the one who came back with Hagar with like a sliver of life and just X Factor? That was so nuts.
My God. So here it was. He was down to his last character, and it was Hagar, and Hagar only had like a sliver of health left.
And Hagar, for reference for people who don't play Marvel vs. Capcom, is essentially a melee-only character with no projectiles and like no mobility.
Well, also for those who don't know fighting games, he was the mayor of the city he's from.
Yeah, which
that was River City Ransom, right?
No, it was Final Fight.
Final Fight. Yeah, I always mix those two up.
They're vaguely the
Final
same
Fight. His daughter gets kidnapped by mobsters,
and then he rips off his shirt and is like, "I was in pro wrestling. Screw the cops. I'm doing this myself."
So you and his daughter's boyfriend go down to the mean streets and beat up all the gangsters.
Literally punch everybody in the face.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. That's so good. Well, regardless, so at this point he is down to no characters left. He has X Factor, which in Marvel vs. Capcom terms, basically, the lower your character number is, it increases your speed and power accordingly to how many characters you have left. So if you have one character left, you basically just go God mode for 10 seconds.
So he went God mode for 10 seconds, and he had a sliver of health left, and the other player still had all 3 characters functioning.
And it looked... He even got comboed, and, like... It was like, oh, okay. Even Yipes was like, oh, I guess he just lost. And the second Yipes finished, I think he just lost this. The other guy drops the combo, and then suddenly Hagar's just like right eye to eye with the opposing character and power bombs him. And you're like, oh shit, this is not over.
So then you have all of the all of this dude's his roster of 3 characters all getting their health just smacked away. It's insane. Like, one character down in seconds, then the other one jumps out,
and then he like gets some mix up in, and then like gets the lead pipe, and is just like, okay, they're dead.
Lead pipe to the face.
Like, ah! And everyone's going, like, you can physically hear the audience in the background just like, ah!
It's electric.
It's amazing.
I'm going to be following this from now on.
No, Evo is everything that is good about like professional sports, with none of the weird possibility of head trauma. With none of the worrying questions about head trauma.
Yeah, and no worry about rule breaking, because unless you're like some jack off with some sort of controller that's going to mess with the rule set of the
some
game,
like weird stimulant thing.
Why would you do that?
I mean, you're going to be caught too.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out pretty quick.
But I mean, that's what's so amazing about Evo to me is it provides that electric quality of like an actual professional sporting event, but with things that you and I can sit down and understand and play. Now, I'm not saying we can't understand baseball, but the problem is that there is a physicality difference. I mean, we don't have the ability to play it, not because we're not capable of doing it, because I bet you if we took the time to, we could, but it just seems a lot more accessible in that way, where like we're already capable of playing video games. Playing them at a professional level is obviously very different, but it provides us, maybe it's just a false sense of ability.
Well, I mean, okay, so here's the thing, like, I'm not about to say that I can do what they do.
No, God, no, I can't either.
Like, you have to be fast. You have to be quick. You have to want it, and you have to train. It's like any other professional sport.
Precisely.
It involves years of training.
But also, the other thing is, you don't have to be... And I mean, this is kind of why I love baseball, too. You don't have to be, like, in your prime and 30 years old and spent, like, every year since the age of 11 training for it. I mean, baseball, you can play until you're like 40 within reason. They've done it.
Yeah.
But these games, and that's kind of why it's cooler to me, is I have a feeling they're not going anywhere. Like,
no,
I have a feeling you're going to have people who have families actively like, I bet you Yipes is going nowhere. Like, even in 2 decades, that man will probably still be showing up to Evo, and just you'll hear his voice for the Marvel stuff and be like, hey, I'm back. And like, that'll just be the norm. Like, there's something awesome about that ability to say, even when you're like 40 or 50, you can still sit down and do this.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't have like some sort of chronic arthritis in your fingers or something.
Which you might. I mean, have you seen the crap these guys? No.
Well, and then there's like, there's accessible controllers too.
Yeah. That's a thing. They've started making those.
Yes.
Which, good on humanity for deciding that was a good idea.
I know, right? All video games are for everybody. Yeah. Okay.
I will say this. One of my favorite moments. I want to end with this, because if we're gonna do Evo stories, this is still probably my favorite one of all time.
We'll do that, and then we'll call it.
All right. So in Marvel vs. Capcom, there are the Marvel gods. They are the people, and I mean, they do this with Street Fighter. They're the people who are untouchable. They're considered like the actual deities of Marvel. And for a while, most of these guys were showing up in every single top 8 for a very long period of time.
Is this gonna be about Chris G?
So he was in there, but he's included in that. God, Justin Wong's included in that. Filipino champ. Yipes was included in that for a while, but now he's kind of out of that bracket. But there are some people who are just untouchable in this game, and they for a while were claiming most of the championships. Well, this guy named Kane Blue River appeared out of absolutely nowhere.
What's that?
And he was playing Kane Blue River, and he was playing what's become known as Team Big Body, which is Hagar Sentinel with a leadoff of Hulk. He ends matches in 10 seconds because you can't do anything. Like, if his team pops off, you're basically just taking... So in Marvel, you have most players have about 1 million life, 900,000 to 1 million life. His team on average in a combo would dish out about 600k. And that's without like any optimization or ultras being thrown at you. Like, he throws around some huge fucking damage. And there was one year that he ended up taking Evo, and it was awesome and ridiculous, and he barely got to speak, but like he just decimated everyone in front of him. I think that match was probably the shortest Evo final in the history of Evo with Marvel, where it's just like, and it's over. What? I like blinked. Anyway, my favorite story about this has got to be, I think it was the next day or the next tournament. I think it was CEO. They did a exhibition match. And it was Filipino Champ, who, you know how we've talked about wrestling before in the past? Filipino Champ is essentially the heel of the fighting game community. He is the ultra heel of the fighting game community. He wears sunglasses, generally just like talks to everybody like a troll. The guy, I can't.
His dad works at Nintendo.
I can't tell if he's. I can't tell if
his joystick's button. His buttons are stuck.
He's so good at this. I can't tell whether it's purposeful trolling and he just owns this persona, or whether he is not self-aware and this is just actively who he is as a person. Like, I can't tell the difference. That is how good this act is. And so he challenges Kane Blue River to, yo, man, you're not good enough to be Evo champ. Let's do this. First to 14 exhibition match before CEO. And they do it. And it's like an hour long, and it is some of the best shit you will ever watch, because Kane Blue River sandbags for about 9 matches and is like, doesn't play his real team, plays jokey teams, like pulls him in, and Filipino Champ is buying into his own hype. He's feeding off the crowd, like yelling at him. He actually pauses the game, which if you pause in any fighting game,
that's like a slap, dude.
That's a match loss. Yeah. And so he purposely pauses the game twice in a row and is like, no, I'll just give you, I can't see that 0 anymore, man. It's fine. And then Kane Blue River turns on angry mode. And it's really funny because for 38 minutes on that clock, I think it's Kane losing. And he's down like 9 matches. The next 10 are him going to 10 to 12 of just like, all right. And then it's 8 matches of him just steamrolling him. And then the next day, and this is, I have to show you this too, because it's also the hypest Yipes has ever been in human history. It's them sitting down to play the CEO finals, and it's Kane Blue River versus Filipino Champ in the grand finals. And Yipes' chant is, "This is not what you call revenge. This is what you call justice," as Kane Blue River hands Filipino Champ his own ass in grand finals. And it is, it's amazing. But it's moments like that why I love Evo. It's this ridiculously, like, it gives you the same feeling of like watching wrestling, but with the fact that it's actually real and also based around something that you can actively do. It's for some of the same reasons that Ben loves wrestling is why I love watching FGC stuff. It provides you with those super hype moments that like are stories that like stay with you of just like the ridiculous crap that happens. And also, I play this game already. It's a way to steal tech and beat friends of mine in a fighting game.
I think that's going to do it.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect place to end.
All right. Okay, so before we end the show, I just want to say that, like, I like doing this show. And
I do too.
We don't get to do it as much as we'd like. We mentioned in the last episode that it'd been a month since we recorded.
And it's been another month.
And it's been another month. Our lives are pretty hectic, but like... that's going to be changing pretty soon. Like, I plan on doing more recording.
Oh, no, yeah. And this doesn't take that long for us.
But this is actually out to, if you're listening to this show, just let someone else know about it, maybe?
Yeah, spread the show. Because we like doing this, but also we like doing it, and we're going to keep doing it, but also having more of a reason to do it would probably motivate us more.
Yeah.
And that sounds horrible, but, like... Really, it would.
There is a certain point where, like, I'm listening to the show and it's like, am I just talking to myself?
I mean, you're talking to me. I mean, I'm sitting right here, man.
No, I mean, like, later.
No,
like,
I know.
Is there actually an Andrew in this room? Or
no, it's really
am I really just good at voices?
You're very, very good at doing voices.
All right. Well, anyway, have a good day.
Yeah.
And we'll talk
Bye, everybody.
And maybe next time we'll talk about the Hulk.
We might actually, do that episode we promised last month.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.